Hi, this is Eric Metcalf, and you're watching the Unhappy Hour.
All right, everybody, broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles, to be specific. My name's Brian. This is the Unhappy Hour. We are broadcasting on this camera live on Facebook Live. We are over here. You're probably watching this on YouTube or after the fact on Facebook or Twitter, etc. Want to thank John and Jen for getting us these awesome Cleveland That I Love and Cleveland Skyline coasters, rather. Very much appreciate it. I will drink my coffee using these right now on the dresser that we have redone. If you did not see the video we put out at the New American Media with our new dresser, we have a new pilot episode of Easy Does It. Our 10-year-old neighbor learned how to sand and stain and paint and redo this childhood dresser. It's part of a much larger series. Check it out. It's on YouTube. Thank you very much. Right now we are joined with Zak Baris. Zak is a lifelong Cleveland sports fan. Zak has worked in sports for quite a long time, more recently in basketball, but he definitely has had his time in front of other sports programs, coming up through Arizona, and then, of course, focusing on basketball more recently. Zak and I are going to talk about the Cleveland Browns in our first segment today. We're going to also talk about the NFL Draft in segment number 2, and then segment number 3, we're going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers / potential NBA trades. Zak, thank you for joining us again. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Brian. How was your Christmas?
My Christmas was fantastic. Yours is 5 degrees, am I correct, right now?
It's 7 here. Warmed up. It's a little balmy now.
A balmy siete. Yeah,
I leave for Miami on the 5th, so I'm not too worried. I got a week left of this.
Okay. All right. Well, have fun with that. It would have been a lot cooler if maybe the Buckeyes were playing somewhere warm for the championship, but that didn't happen. I know it changed travel arrangements, and honestly, we can start with the Cleveland Browns because I have to look at travel arrangements and travel plans to potentially come back to Cleveland for a perfect season parade.
So, I want to let everybody know right now, the Swan Float is on sale on Saks.com right now for $10. So the Johnny Swan Float is on sale.
Okay, that's not bad. I saw him for $20.
For Saks Fifth Ave, normally $25 on sale for $10. So if you need a good item to bring to the parade, I recommend it for $10 and free shipping from Saks.com. Well worth it.
All right, I'm actually making a note of that because I've talked with Chris McNeil. He said he would definitely let me have a chance to speak in front of the crowd and have the podium, the lectern, the microphone for a few moments. And, you know, this is a protest. It hasn't happened yet. We pulled out a miracle last year to avoid it, but I don't know. Something about this year feels different. The only hope is that Mike Tomlin sits his starters. What do you think?
My understanding is I don't even get why fans are so upset at the people for the parade that are going to the parade. They're like, I had some guy bashing me the other day when I tweeted the picture of the Swan Float, and it got a bunch of likes. It got about 25 likes, and McNeil liked it, so a bunch of other people liked it too. And so what happened was some guys like, go F yourself, go root for the Steelers or the Ravens. Like, listen, I sit there and I watch the Browns for 3 hours every Sunday, and I waste my time going to the games now. When it's about 40 degrees outside, I'll go. I have no reason to go watch an 0-15 football team, though, at home. No reason whatsoever. I will watch it on TV, but I'm not wanting to get sick at the game.
Right.
To watch putrid football. I am a Browns fan, a diehard Browns fan. I love the Browns. I really do. I love my Cleveland sports to death. I love the Cavs, I love the Indians, and I love the Browns. I watched the Browns every day. Last year, when I was in Punta Cana, I watched the only Browns win on the last full day of my trip on Christmas Eve before leaving. I sat inside for 3 hours when it was 90 degrees outside and watched the stupid Browns beat the Chargers. Okay? Don't tell me I'm not a Browns fan. I don't need anybody telling me that. That just drove me nuts.
Right.
I've been there. We have the most incompetent ownership in the league. It's the same thing. It's like going to support your president. If you don't like what the president does, protest it. And this has nothing to do with Trump here. I'm not saying this. It has nothing to do. All I'm saying is if you don't like something, you don't like the way something's being run, you protest it. And the fans need to speak out. This is disgusting what the Haslams are doing. 1 win in 2 seasons. This team is 48 now in their last 52 games? They're pathetic.
Yeah, and it is pathetic. It is disgusting what this team is doing, and this it really is a protest. You looked at the Cleveland Browns. And you had to get Jim Brown coming in saying, guys, stop with the kneeling crap and focus on the game.
I think they're like 4-51. If you take back to 2014, no, I'm not even kidding. This year they're 0-15. Last year they were 1-15. The year before they were 3-13. And before that they were 7-4, and they lost the last 5 to finish out the year. 5 plus 13 is 18, plus 15 is 33. Yeah, 48. They're 4-48 in their last 52. I mean, they are a joke of an organization. Well, it's 52 weeks of football, and we've seen 4 wins.
Yes, that's
this is the worst ownership. I mean, the 0-16 Lions would kick our ass.
Well, that's what Jim Brown and others were calling out is, I think your focus is on the wrong stuff. On top of being undermanned, you got the Browns' new GM saying, well, the previous GM didn't get them players that they could win with. On top of not having enough key players when they bottomed out with their roster, the focus hasn't been there. And we learned one thing, like you said, Zach, you can protest the things you don't like.
I like what John Dorsey said. He said they didn't get real players. Well, you know what? They might have some real players on the roster, but Sashi Brown didn't get the right players or the real players. This team is under Sashi Brown's leadership, and I'm still counting this as Sashi Brown's leadership, even though he's been canned because it's still the football team he put together. Is 1-30 right now. That's
terrible.
About to be 1-31, the worst stretch in NFL history. This is worse than the 76 Bucks that went 0-14 and the 77 Bucks the following year, an expansion team. This is worse than the 99 and 2000 Browns that won 5 games and didn't have Tim Couch for the last 12 games of the 2000 season. And they would have easily won more. And those teams were pathetic. Well, especially when Couch was injured. That team won 3 games. 3 games. Doug Peterson was their quarterback, and he was horrible. I will never forget it. The Browns were awful that season. In 99, they won 2 games. I mean, this team is so bad. They just got demolished by a 4-win football team. And they weren't even on the same playing field as the Bears.
So this is
the Bears cleaned their clocks.
So this is the worst NFL team that's ever been assembled?
Ever been assembled. Ever.
Is it possible this was the plan all along?
I don't think it was to be this bad, Brian. I don't think it's it. Brian, I think their plan was to strip it to the studs, not strip it beyond the studs to the point where you tore down the house.
I think they barely left the basement and foundation.
It is like building a house. My family's been in the building business for 65 years. I own a real estate company. I can tell you this. They literally, what they did was, they stripped an old, a big old mansion down to its core. Stripped it down. It was rotting. It had mold, everything. They stripped it down too much, rebuilt it without putting the proper foundation pieces in place. And they used rotting lumber, to build this house. And it's falling apart again. We're here, we have very few building blocks in this draft. Who would you say were the building blocks? David Njoku and Myles Garrett. That's about it right now. Jabril Peppers hasn't shown much. I can't even tell you.
Josh Gordon, perhaps, maybe Corey Coleman.
Corey Coleman. I mean, the problem is you don't have a quarterback, so you're stunting the growth of the receivers. You also didn't bring in proper receivers anyway, and especially Sashi Brown supposedly really valued receivers. Yet you let Terrell Pryor walk and you signed Kenny Brett. I mean, Dorsey has his hands full, and now you have the top quarterback prospect in the draft saying he doesn't want to play for the Browns. That's a problem.
Is he the top prospect? I mean, the concussion.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Yeah, he is. Here's the thing, Brian, and honestly, if you weren't, this is totally unrelated to Cleveland. Let's just hypothetically take another organization here and let's replace them with the Browns. And let's just say for a second, it's a team that's been, let's just say it's the Arizona Cardinals of the early 2000s, a team that hasn't made the playoffs for 20 years. And you're going there in a hellhole with bad ownership, and there's really no way to right the ship. Is that the organization that you want to be a part of going into? Absolutely not. Take away being biased for Cleveland for a second and say and totally take Cleveland out of the equation. If you were with an organization that has had 1 playoff season and 2 winning seasons since 1995, Would that be a city you'd want to come to right now with the ownership being as incompetent as they are? And with coaching changes every year to 2 years under this leadership, would that be an organization taking Cleveland out of the equation that you would want to play for if you were an athlete, or if you had a child that was an athlete that you would want them playing for, that's been bust after bust after bust?
No.
Exactly my point. I don't blame Josh Rosen. I don't think it has anything to do with the city of Cleveland. I think it has to do with Haslam starting at the top with ownership. There's no stability. You've got an owner that should be in jail. You had Alex Scheiner, another moron, good businessman, but should not be running a football team. And, he's sitting there watching film. Luckily he got fired because of something stupid he did. Ryan, I'll get into that later with you. But they're letting, I don't know if you read The Athletic at all, but the articles that were written this week, on The Athletic, going through and detailing everything, talking about how Nathan Zagura, a fantasy football guy, is sitting there scouting for the Browns and writing their scouting reports. It's pathetic.
Well, that sounds great. And we have 2 of the top 4 picks, the number 1 and number 4, projected if it happened tomorrow.
Yeah, and I tweeted out the other day. I said, listen to this. It's almost like a baseball guy and the head of the Jacksonville Housing Authority were running the Browns front office and evaluating their talent. It's almost like that. Only if it is that.
Yeah. So who do we take one? You like Rosen at 1 and he doesn't want
I take Rosen. I like Darnold. You have to get the quarterback, though. Your quarterback will be there at 1 and almost any player. Don't forget, the Giants at 2 are going to take their top quarterback. And someone's going to trade into the 3 spot, most likely with Indianapolis, and take their quarterback. So someone's going to jump. The Browns have to take a quarterback at 1. They have to. Otherwise, they're going to be sitting there and having to trade back in at 22 like they do every year for a quarterback.
Yeah, and that's kind of a jinxed spot. Was that the Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel slot?
And Brandon Weeden.
Oh, yes, Brandon Weeden. Thank you. I nearly forgot.
So we've taken 3 quarterbacks at the 22 spot in the last 10 years. It's pathetic.
All right. So what about the kid out of Wyoming? I'm hearing a lot about
Josh
him.
Allen. He looked really good during the bowl game the other day, but again, Josh Rosen is the top prospect in the draft. If that's the best player, then take him. It all depends. I trust John Dorsey as an evaluator. Nothing he's done. The guy, everywhere he's gone, he's won. And I'd let him pick the next coach if I were Jimmy Haslam. I think Jimmy Haslam does this thing where the coach reports separately, and it just doesn't seem to work out. Just let a great GM, a great football mind, do his job in Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, hey, what do you think about what the Chiefs are doing to go sideways real quick? They're starting Pat Mahomes, obviously.
Because they don't want to injure Alex Smith. It has nothing to do with benching Alex Smith.
No, I understand.
At the same time, it just happens to be a positive on both sides. Not only you get to see if Mahomes is ready for next year, possibly, but it also allows you to sit Alex Smith and see what you've got for next year. Do we need to keep Smith for another year, or is it Mahomes looks great? Okay, we can cut bait with Alex Smith and trade him, or we can cut him.
Right. Yeah, well, look at what Garoppolo's done over at the 49ers.
Brian, if the Browns would have had him all year, this team would probably have 7 to 8 wins.
Ugh. Kaiser's that bad, we're done with him, or should we keep him as a backup?
I'd keep him as a backup, but, he has no value. I wouldn't cut him. He's a 21-year-old guy who could latch on somewhere else, and with proper coaching and proper development, sitting on the bench for 4 or 5 years, become a decent player. You watch him make some great throws. He's got a great arm. His timing is just off, and his accuracy's up. And decision-making in the red zone is the worst I've ever seen in my life. I expect the Browns to fully fumble or throw an interception every time they get into the red zone.
How can that be? How in the world have they been this inept?
I don't even know how it's possible.
I get getting stuffed on the 5-yard line. Your running game isn't working. I get overthrowing receivers.
But it's not even that. It's literally throwing the ball into traffic and throwing an interception. I've never seen anything like it.
That's just the inexcusable stuff right there.
No, and that's bad coaching. Even drawing up a play that puts them in that situation,
right?
To not get to drive 80 yards downfield and not get any points. It just shoots you in the foot. And the Browns, another problem is their defense might be decent, but what does their defense not do? They do not create turnovers, ever. Even when they have a great game in coverage, The last time we had an interception, the last time the Browns created a turnover was like November 19th.
Talk about the Myles Garrett nearly interception.
Yeah, other than Carl Nassib being lined up. That's what bad football teams do, or are poorly coached. You know?
Yeah, I do. But all right, so
Hugh needs to go.
All right, so look, let's get back to the draft real quick. I know we took a detour with the quarterbacks, Jimmy G and Pat Mahomes, but if Josh Rosen isn't going to be the guy, do you pass on him just because he's being a punk?
I mean, if he refused to play, you could always take him at 1 and see what his leverage is from there. Is the kid going to sit out a year without playing? Probably not. Or what you do is use it in leverage and you trade with that pick with the Giants, and you pick up another first-round pick next year out of it. And you take Sam Darnold at 2.
Do you like Darnold at 2?
I do like Darnold. I'd rather have Rosen, but I like Darnold too.
So rank them. How many are NFL players do you think?
In my opinion, I haven't seen enough Josh Allen film, but judging by what I saw from the bowl game, he's got a big arm, but again, he's got playing with marginal talent best.
Well,
my opinion is I like Rosen, I like Darnold, I like Josh Allen.
Okay.
Those are my 3 guys at the top. Then 4th, I like Baker Mayfield, but the problem is Baker scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, Johnny
Thinking of the whole Johnny Manziel situation, although, he's done stupid things. He's got that big reputation. He reminds me exactly of Manziel, which shouldn't be a reason not to take him because he could be a great quarterback, but he is short. I don't know how he'll vibe in Cleveland. I want a quarterback with a big arm, and that's why I think Rosen would be a great fit here. I even think Josh Allen or Darnold. I mean, I think Darnold is clear-cut the second best prospect in the draft. Here's the thing. If the Browns walk out of this with Rosen and Barkley in the draft and go and sign a big free agent like a Dez Bryant who could be available next season if the Cowboys make him take a pay cut and might cut him, and you have the chance to land someone to pair him with Josh Gordon and Corey Coleman and David Njoku, this team, could have some weapons on, and you draft a guy like Barkley to go along with Duke Johnson. Suddenly your offense is fixed. Or do you take a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick at number 4 or 5, the safety from Alabama, who's a fantastic piece to pair with Jabril Peppers defensively to help create turnovers and stuff, and you have 3 picks in the second round to help get it right, and you got over $100 million, you got $115 million in cap room to go out there. That's why I think it's the only reason Dorsey took this job was because of the flexibility he has in the draft with having 6 picks in the top 65.
That is such an astonishing
He's got 6 picks in the top 65. 6.
Yeah, so I want an offensive lineman, I want a wide receiver, I want a running back, a quarterback, and then I'm open on the next.
I'm telling you this, if the Browns went 10-6 next year, I'd be shocked just because it's the Browns. If there were any other team and any other GM walking into it next year, going, okay, my team's 0-11, I've got these cornerstones, my team's 0-15, 0-16, I've got these cornerstones to build around. I've got a Myles Garrett, I've got Danny Shelton, I've got Joe Schobert, I've got Jamie Collins, I've got Christian Kirksey, Brian Bodykelly. I've got some pieces to build around. Now we need to fill them in, and I can go and overpay some free agents because that's what it's going to take to get them here. But I also have 6 of the top 65 picks, and I can land 2 impact players in the top 5 of the draft. I'm going to also have 2 picks at the very top of the second round. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at that going, wow, I've got 4 of the top 36 picks in the draft.
That is just astonishing to break down that way.
Dorsey can easily, if he's that good of an evaluator, which he has been in Kansas City, he chose guys like Tyreek Hill. He took the kid out of Willoughby.
Kareem.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt.
You can get those guys second round, third round. You can find.
That's
those
the thing.
types of
He's
players.
drafted legitimate talent in the later rounds.
Yeah.
And if he can go and do that here in Cleveland, then he's got himself an easy setup here going, okay, there's no reason, hypothetically, this team could wind up with Alex Smith in free agency, and whoever your first-year quarterback is finally gets to sit. And then you have Kaiser's the third-string quarterback, or even if he progresses well, has him as the second string. It's never a bad thing to have too many quarterbacks and have a stopgap for a year or two. So you don't have to throw a guy right in the fire, especially in Cleveland when there's a bunch of rookies. You overpay for a guy like Dez Bryant or Jordy Nelson to get an experienced piece in here, if you know what I mean. You see what Gordon can do if he doesn't screw it up again. And I'm hoping the best for him. I hope he doesn't screw it up. But you can't rely on him. But hopefully you can. And suddenly you've got a formidable piece going in there offensively next year, and you can fill in a bunch of other pieces, through free agency. And suddenly you can piece together this team with having, maybe let's say right now there's 16 guys out of the 53 on the roster that you want going into next year. Well, through the draft, you can add, let's say, 8 cornerstones. That's 24 out of the 53. You can add another 8, 9 players in free agency. You add some backups. You add some starters. Suddenly, your roster turnover is right there. You can switch the turnover and take 20, 25 guys and replace them with the amount of draft picks and the amount of money you have in free agency. You have so much flexibility, and that's why I think that's the only reason Dorsey took this job, because he knew what he had to work with here.
Yeah, well, and we'll find out if that was the plan all along, if they're able to rebuild it. Remember what the Dallas Cowboys did.
Trust me, Sassy Brown did not anticipate being fired, so this was not the plan.
Well, he did take the fall, but he did leave the cupboards totally stocked for Armageddon.
He did, but he also gave up on a franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz and a franchise quarterback in Deshaun Watson.
Yes, 2 fragile quarterbacks, and we have those picks to make next year instead.
Yeah. They turned Carson Wentz into Jabril Peppers and Corey Coleman, which there's been nothing to write home about for either one of them. So, yeah, it's been kind of weak so far, and you're going to get another second-round pick out of it. But I'm telling you, the Browns have the chance to finally right the ship here, get the right quarterback in place, and see what they can do. Look at how quickly the Rams just turned around. I swear to God, though, if they fire Hugh Jackson and bring in Jeff Fisher, I'm done with this football team. I hate Jeff Fisher. I think he's the worst coach in football. Look at all the guys that struggled under him. Nick Foles, Sam Bradford. Case Keenum was terrible. Jared Goff was terrible. And now you look at it, Goff is in the playoffs. Case Keenum's in the playoffs. Nick Foles almost retired from football after having a career year and having 1 year at the Rams because he hated football so much after playing for Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, that's the opposite of the quarterback whisperer. What's the opposite? The quarterback, I don't know, whatever you'd call it. But it seems like Hugh's going to be safe. It seems like they're going to bring in an offensive coordinator.
I still don't know about that. I think it all depends on how they play this Sunday, and if they look like they give up on him, I'm sure Dorsey will have his ear.
Make your prediction, call your shot, and then we'll transfer. We'll kind of pivot over to the Cavs. Do the Cleveland Browns
Pittsburgh 27-7.
Okay, Pittsburgh wins 27-7. All right, I'm putting it down in the books. 27-7. Pittsburgh. All right, we're gonna split the show into 2 pieces right now.